Hey, welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate. Your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, it's Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Hey, good morning, Paul, and good morning to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. It's Tuesday, and we are back talking real estate. I am Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company, managing partner of Saywitz Properties, and host of Let's Talk Real Estate. So I want to welcome everybody back to the show for another round of real estate talk. I'm excited about today's show. We are going to talk a couple of buzzwords that you don't get to hear very often, but it's certainly been out there for a long time and continues to be, which is sustainability and energy efficiency, and we're going to rope that in with real estate. So I want to welcome our guest to the show, Scott Long, CEO of NILE BUILT HOMES here in Orange County. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I understand you had a long commute from your office down the hall.
I did. It was about 35 seconds.
Yeah, so I appreciate that you were on time. Otherwise, you have no excuse. But your company, NILE BUILT HOMES, based here and has offices here on the campus of UCI in the Beal Applied Institute building. And how did you end up in this? I want to ask how you ended up, period. But I mean, how did you end up to be in this building in the first place?
Actually, through Sustain Southern California, just a contact. I'm on the board of directors for them, and they're located on the second floor.
Gotcha.
So we spent a lot of time over here at various events and found a nice little corner office for us for right now.
Good. And so originally, I guess let's rewind a little bit, your own history in terms of being involved in the real estate industry. From the Midwest originally.
That's correct.
What part?
Iowa City.
And so, and then how long have you been out here in California?
Since the late 1980s, kind of living part-time here, part-time there. But my family located here about 3 years ago permanently when we started this venture.
It's a shame you left the good weather in Iowa and had to come
No,
here.
it's not. Do not miss that.
I'm from Chicago, and we moved right after. It took me 4 days to dig out of the front door from a blizzard. That was sort of the end of it for my family. Yeah. So crawling on your knees on a snowdrift to school, no fun.
I remember those days.
So now you've been out in Orange County for quite a while. Obviously, lots of growth here in terms of both the commercial and the residential industry. I mean, the economy here as a whole has boomed. The population has boomed, and as a result of that, certainly a need for housing on a great level in all price ranges. And so the work that you had done previously before your involvement with your current company, how did that, I guess, what was that experience, and then how did that help you with where you are today?
That's a great question. So our family heritage in this started in the 1980s. My father first patented he was a composites engineering guy, first patented a sandwich wall construction technology, which is basically a layer of concrete, a center layer of extruded foam, and another layer of concrete. It's a product called, Thermomass, which has been used globally now for 43 years. Huh. And it's a primary insulation system for site cast tilt-up, for precast, modular prison precast, cast-in-place foundations. And that was really the genesis of the technology of understanding how these walls can be used in various applications. So growing up around it, I was always fascinated with it. In 1997, I started my first venture to pursue really downsizing the engineering and complexity of the panels for residential. Had built a engineering platform, marketing strategy, and actually at that time, which is right in the the early days, if you will, of the large build cycle that occurred pre-recession, Dow Building Materials was a supplier of styrofoam for the business at the time. We sold part of the technology platform to Dow. Dow licensed the production of these wall panel elements under the Styrofoam brand name for about 6 years, and had a number of locations set up nationally, and began to deploy the product through that channel till the recession came and moved all the parts around, and residential shut down for essentially about 15 years.
Huh. And was it always, and is it still used on the commercial side of things as well? It
Yes.
seems like it's an easier application on the commercial than it would be on the residential.
Yeah, my father was extremely innovative, and while his background was in composites, he really was the leader, if you will, in a lot of these industries. An example is Home Depot. Back in those days, were building their stores with a concrete block, and a quick analysis showing them kind of their speed of construction, utility savings. Home Depot converted 20 some years ago. Every Home Depot in the U.S. has been built out of this product.
Huh.
So wineries, Montford, I believe Franzia, many of those wineries had moved over to the product line as well. Cold storage units, another big sector.
Right, because the
of business.
insulation, soundproofing, and the speed of construction.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
those are all, really predominant factors in decision making.
It was.
And then time is cost, and labor is cost, and so
Yep.
I think you beat it on all fronts.
Yep.
So how does that then? So then you have the residential application. You sell it to Dow. They're going with it. Recession hits. Now what?
Well, we pulled back and started looking at the commercial and industrial sector because residential was essentially shut down nationally. My business partner, who I've been with for 21 years, and I built a computer automated factory in the Midwest to high volume or mass manufacture these wall panel elements for commercial applications. So we built panels for entire high schools that used to be mostly concrete block. Cold storage units, data centers, banks, warehousing, typical applications like that. And we shipped around the Midwest throughout Chicago, Minneapolis, Omaha, Kansas City, even shipped orders as far as Arkansas. And that was an interesting business, and it was also an interesting learning experience as to the complexities of factory production, which kind of rolling forward into the residential sector, you're hearing a lot about modular construction and
Right.
prefabrication, and
Because if you're building a school or a prison or an industrial building, somebody's got to give you the specs.
correct.
You've got to make it, and then you got to put it on a truck and get it to wherever it's supposed to go.
Correct. And one of the difficulties with that model that we found in the residential sector is just the transient nature of residential. So you have this huge capital expenditure that's centralized, as we call it, and you have about a 200-mile ship radius around it. So if that market slows, you've got a big
Right.
expense that's sitting there and highly trained staff to operate it. So that pushed us towards the product line that we have now that is under the brand name NILE Built, which is a on-site produced wall panel element where we actually removed structural steel in replacement of structural fibers, composite fibers, and reduced the weight of the product by about 50%.
Huh.
So the model now is that we can set up on large-scale developments, set up a temporary production area. We use CNC machines to mill and fabricate the foam per design, and can actually pour these on site with very minimally trained or skilled labor. Essentially, anybody that does flat work concrete can do these types of panel
So it's a
elements.
form, and then you're basically
It's exactly
pouring it.
exactly.
And so if you had, I guess the application would be as if I was a developer and I was building a housing development with a bunch of homes, I would use these panels for the entire project. And if I was building different types of homes within the project, but they were similar, if it's tract housing kind of development, it should go much easier.
That's correct. And to kind of evolve the business, wall panels are really one element of the structural side of the homes. We use a metal bar joist and composite concrete decking for both floors and roof systems in these buildings to produce the structural diaphragm strength that we need for seismic and for the fire resistance. So there is essentially no wood in any of these homes.
Huh.
We've got about 15 homes designed now that will go into larger scale production. We're doing a 5,200 square foot demonstration home in South Orange County. We actually break ground on October 9th on that.
Great.
So that'll be a big marketing piece for us to show. But the product benefits go along with non-combustibility, which allows us to get permits in certain areas that other builders are not able to get. And the homes, we participated in a Department of Energy study back in 2006 and have homes that have been off-grid since 2006. that are net zero. And so that technology is built into each one of these homes as well.
So you really expanded the technology from I'm just building the panel, or I'm selling you the panel,
Correct.
or the process of it, to I'm going to build the whole house.
Yeah.
And then now it's the walls, it's the roofs, it's the foundation, but then you've taken it seems like one step further with this concept of net zero sustainability, right? And so
Correct.
that gets into things like lighting and technology and other things that go into the house.
Yeah, and the state has a mandate for net zero of all homes. The fire maps have been redrawn, which has paralyzed a lot of developments. And we found that just the engineering that we'd worked on for 20 some years really played into those needs very, very well. So it's gotten us a lot of traction very, very quickly. The business itself evolved even further. I get asked commonly or frequently about selling product to builders, and was our old business model.
Right.
And it's difficult, and getting large-scale production builders who have taken decades to perfect their current processes to shift over is very difficult. We chose at this stage in our life that we weren't going to continue down that path, that we would just take it by the reins and become our own developer builder ourselves.
And so, yeah, so it's really is a different model because now you're the builder, right?
Correct.
And so you really wear multiple hats because now you're in charge of the construction, you're in charge of the entitlement process, you're dealing with the city. I mean, there's a whole layer all the way down the road of the different processes as opposed to just being a supplier.
Correct. Yeah, and so we're very active in the capital markets and pulling together larger amounts of dry powder to start building in some of these existing developments that are out there today, and the acquisition of land, both public-private partnerships that we're working on for affordables, and privately owned developed land, and privately owned land that needs to be yet developed.
And so in terms of the capital raise, is it private investment groups? Is it REITs, investment funds? Is it going to banks for conventional financing? Is it a combination of those things?
It's a combination. We have a crowdfunding launch that'll be live in about 3 weeks. And then we have an accredited 506C that will follow behind that, essentially for project financing and land bank.
Yeah, it seems like once you get the model up and going, then people will be able to come and feel and touch it, and it should be an easier sell.
Timing has worked out well for us with that, yes.
And so how does that play into, in terms of your business plan, with what's going on in the overall economy and interest rates and everything else? I mean, it seems to me like it would be good and bad at the same time. On the one hand, with the housing starts maybe slowing down and people looking for more cost-effective housing would create opportunity. But the flip side, you have interest rates higher, so you have less people out there buying, and then you still have construction costs, whatever you're building, at an all-time high.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've been at this long enough to know the cycles. And for us, the last, I founded this company in 2019, the last 4 years of getting prepared for this, meaning product testing, getting our ICCSRs, getting our fire testing done, getting our product line in the code books is good preparation time for when the market does shift again. The other issue that we see with this is that interest rates, while it certainly drives the economy in the housing space, what we've seen is a lot of the larger production builders really withdraw from the state of California and in other particular markets due to lumber price fluctuation, due to labor restriction issues. Now they're facing permit issues in areas that 5 years ago, when they set out to develop the land, wasn't drawn into a high-risk fire zone, and now it is.
Yeah.
And so now they have some real big headwinds to deal with. That creates a lot of opportunity for us, I think, as we're getting prepared for a bigger play in the capital markets as well. And I think that resonates. But I think overall, at some point, interest rates, as we know, will come back down. I think the other reality to it is that it's a market that's been very stagnant for a very long time, technologically speaking. And product quality is not the greatest that's out there. And I think there is a tremendous pent-up interest from the buying public for something new and better. And I think that's a lot of what we represent, and certainly what we're seeing in the market as we're going out promoting what we're doing, particularly in the affordable space. So
Yeah, well, that was my next question, which is who's the buyer of these homes, right? Is there a demographic or a price range where through either your research or what you've seen in the marketplace, certainly on the affordable side, you can build it quicker, you can build it less expensive, and those are the things that will drive it. When you get into the middle tier and some of the higher tier markets or geographical areas, does that change?
It does. I think the one of the things you'll be seeing here shortly will be our 1,200 to 2,500 square foot space affordables. And these are 1 and 2 story, we call them villas, that have all of the technological nuances of our 5,000 and 6,000 square foot homes, just a smaller footprint. We incorporate universal design in every home to try to allow occupants to live throughout various stages of their life and have accessibility to different floors of the home, to restrooms, to showers. But what we see is a lot of the 20 to 40 year old demographics who are essentially trapped in apartments, who are looking to make that transitional move into ownership, but there just isn't anything on the market for them. A lot of that will be driven by the cooperation that we're seeing from cities in releasing public-owned land, where we're going in and trying to negotiate a price with them in assurance of a capped price point of these homes, which is based on the affordable housing indices, which is published quarterly.
Right. Well, that brings in a whole nother dynamic to it, because you have the pressure from the state for the cities.
Mandates,
right.
correct.
We have the mandates, where we've done other shows on that, good
And
and bad, right? And it's a hot topic, especially in Huntington Beach. But the city could then satisfy the requirement of the state.
The affordables.
They are also providing affordable housing within their city. They're getting new, nice, energy efficient technology, cutting edge homes, and so it really is. To me, if you were going to build affordable housing, this accomplishes checking a lot of boxes.
It does.
For
It
the
does.
city.
Well said. And so I think that's probably very likely our largest market. I think as we get into the higher priced homes, there's a lot of interest in it for just the sustainability aspect. The fire resistance is a huge issue, particularly in canyon areas.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of demand in that in particular. But, the state has mandates for both net zero and for affordable housing. None of those are tracking to be met because the technology really isn't out there until we start to deploy this. So it puts us in a very unique position to take that opportunity and do something very, very well with it.
Let's talk about so we talked about the structural aspects of the building itself, but you have things like lighting and certain technology and HVAC and other things. Are you then taking cutting edge technology for those aspects and incorporating it into the house? Seems like you have to get to the net zero.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. It's interesting too because the state of California already requires so much of that. When we leave the state and we're active in the Texas markets, we're beginning there as well. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So many of the things that we pride ourselves on as being technologically
Nobody
advanced,
cares there, right?
They don't care, and in California, it's already a requirement. So, but yes, certainly LED lighting systems. We're looking at all electric appliances, eliminating gas and fossil fuel use, split HVAC systems, which I just think are critical in any house. It just doesn't make sense to heat and cool all 5,000 square feet at once. So yeah, those are incorporated in it, as is EV charging stations and a full PV solar array. So the real functionality with how we attain it, I'd like to cover just real quick, is the thermal mass or the high mass of the home. So on example of this large demonstration home that we're doing in South Orange County, the interior concrete mass is about 250,000 pounds of concrete. So this is the same principles that work in the commercial and industrial spaces, that when you heat and cool that mass, it retains and re-releases energy, essentially a thermal battery.
Huh.
And that is the absolute main ingredient to getting to net zero.
Got it.
Light gauge framing is nearly impossible to get there.
And so for people that are concerned about the environment, for people that are concerned about long-term costs of utilities, for people that are in a fire area where you can't really build a wood-framed home, it's just not possible. these are all kind of no-brainers, I would think. What are some of the challenges? I mean, it seems like in Texas, the problem is the land is not expensive like it is here in California.
You'd be surprised
Huh.
how much land prices. I've got a meeting there in 2 weeks. They're almost paralleled here per acre.
Really?
It's crazy how much that market has inflated in the last probably 3 years in prices.
And is there the same kind of demand there that there is here?
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there is. You know, in that market, energy is a big issue. Power grid is a big issue. High winds and flooding is a big issue, and we check those boxes as well.
seems like you have less red tape in Texas than in California, but you have so many restrictions in California which apply to everybody else would create opportunity here for you.
It's a mixed bag. I mean, we have the complications of building in California, but we also have the wind at our backs with the mandates, and that really has helped push us along.
So what is a typical construction time frame from when you've got all the permits and you're ready to go and you start construction until you actually finish a home? I mean, obviously it's going to depend case by case, but is there a ballpark?
Well, we've been building long enough. The size villas where we're in that 1,200 to 2,000 square foot range is about 35 to 45 days
That's it.
cycle time. Yeah.
Crazy. And compare that to a normal home process?
You know,
Which could be-
well, we have, back in the pre-recession days when speed of construction was, very, very high, we were favored by most of the major builders by taking 2 to 3 months out of their cycle time.
Yeah.
And if you look at today's cycle time, which is just horrendously slow, those can take 6 months to a year.
So I was going to say,
or
it's at least
longer.
6 months, right?
Yeah.
And so you're talking about 45 days versus 6 months. So if you had a tract of land and you were selling a particular model or just building the model and then they come, right? Then you should be able to get it on the market with a much quicker spin than
That's
the next
correct.
guy out there.
Yes.
And in terms of the interest rates, the other thing I was thinking about it, the interest rate, while it certainly has affected the home buying market as a whole, it seems like it would be a plus for you while the rates are higher, only because it opens up doors for people because you're at a different price point. But if I'm buying a home and I have to pay a 6 or 7% interest rate at the moment, whether I'm buying your home or somebody else's home, that same interest rate is going to apply. So I'm either a buyer or I'm not a buyer.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we do have clients that look at the overall operating cost of the house as well, right?
Right.
So if you're taking utilities out, and they're going to be limited availability until we can scale as an organization in the years to come, we feel pretty confident that at the volumes we can put out, we can move those homes now. I think interest rate changes will, of course, affect that. One of the other areas that we're beginning to work with the state on is going to be on tax credits back to the buyer.
Yeah.
No different than EVs. And I think that's absolutely required in this setting for the buying public to have some form of state or federal incentive to purchase these types of homes.
But there already are incentives for the electric vehicle charging stations, for solar.
Correct.
Right. You even have rebates, whether it's at Home Depot or from a bunch of the cities, if you buy energy efficient appliances and
That's
you stick them in. So it seems like, as time goes on, those rebates will be more abundant and more readily available. And then you may have a whole litany of rebates that would come with one of your homes that somebody else might not be able to offer.
That would be the plan, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
makes perfect sense. And so what do you think? I mean, you've been doing it for a while. It's just now catching on. I equate it a little bit to the electric vehicles where the state mandated it here in California, trying to be the leader for a long time, still being the leader on the electric vehicles. And it's now really fully starting to catch on. I mean, I don't think we'll be 100% EV by whatever date they set. No different than I don't think every home will be a net zero that we're building by any date in the near future. But it seems like the sky's the limit in terms of the opportunity for you and your business and the product that you're building.
Yeah, if you follow what Tesla's model was, and when the EV mandate happened for them, I believe it was in 2011 or 2012, put them on the map. I mean, that drove.
And look at what they've done in a decade.
Correct, and what it has done to drive other automakers into that space. So I'm in favor of it. I think it's necessary in the state. I know the state struggles with the mandates because after the mandate, the hope is the technology arrives or that people invest in it, and that has happened in our sector. with what we're doing. But yeah, it creates an immense amount of opportunity for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you don't get distracted by trying to put people on the moon and Mars, you could stay on a path where you could be the next Elon Musk or thereabouts. I think that this industry, really, the opportunity is unlimited and really untapped.
I agree with you. I chuckle at your comment because I get frustrated when I see the distractions of a lot of these entrepreneurs that are out there with a particular business.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you. Look, he really did change the automobile market.
You did.
There's no question about it. And I've been to the manufacturing facilities this past year in Europe at a number of the manufacturers, and they make cars there that we don't see here.
No, is that right?
And they're all electric. They're even. I mean, they have some hybrids. I think that you have the alternative, but I mean, the days of the gas guzzler, I think, are over.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm gonna have to trade up or in or whatever I'm doing. But and so in terms of, let's talk business plan for the next 12 months for your organization. What's the short-term goal, and then how do you take it to the next step?
Next 12 months will be a demonstration home in Orange County. We also have one going up in Houston to kind of seed those markets. Capital raise will be the next, well, that's kind of in perpetuity, but the next 24 months will be real key for us. And negotiating land deals, as I mentioned, in public and private sector areas to start getting these villa communities going.
And is it a chicken and the egg kind of a situation where I raise the capital, I'm trying to tie up some land. If I had a piece of land, I go pitch the guy to give me money for the land. If I have the money, then I got to go try and spend it.
Well, development.
Right.
I mean, it's all balloons kind of have to rise together. So it's just a function of balancing all of those at the same time. We do have a lot of interest in what we're doing. We have a lot of support at the state and city levels that we've been working with. And we have a lot of interest in the capital markets that have come to us. So it's just really trying to figure out, kind of how we want to pull it together. We've self-funded this for 26 years, my partner and I. So we've never brought in venture capital. We've never brought in big outside investors. And so we're a little leery of that process as we're kind of working through it.
Yeah, but I mean, sort of a necessary evil, I guess, to take it
It
to
is
the next
now,
level.
yeah, to do development now, it's absolutely going to have to happen.
And what has been the reception that you've gotten from the various different cities? Are they excited about the concept? Are they willing to participate? Is it, well, I like the idea, but I don't have anything for you, and good luck, come back, and I wish you well?
I've fortunately had very good meetings with everybody that we've spoken to. There's a high degree of interest, even if we're just a builder developer in their community, to see these types of homes go up. I think the political side on the affordables is going to be a little bit more of a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
As to how that we kind of weave that together politically. But overall, the response, and we've spent a lot of time working with different organizations. As I mentioned, I'm on the board of Sustain Southern California, which is a great organization. We're recent members of Orange County Business Council and the ACC. And they've all been tremendous in promoting what we're doing and big believers in what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no downside, I don't think, to them to support the next phase of growth and to comply with whatever they have to at the same time.
And they all have various interests. I mean, a part of recent discussions with building affordables is, the amount of money that goes into incubators here at UC Irvine. The last thing you want to do is train these folks or teach these folks or watch them grow an idea and then leave the community because they can't afford to live here.
Right.
And so there's just a lot of, external issues that come behind in any community when you don't have housing that people can afford to live in.
Yeah. No, it's all exciting stuff. I told you it'd go quick when we started, and it does. And so I am excited about the prospects for you. I'm glad to hear that you have things on an upward path and that you're making progress, and certainly have to have you come back in the future and see how things go with the test homes and how things evolve. And I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and ideas with us, and wish you much continued success for you and the company, and I'll look for what happens next.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's all we've got for today. I am Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company, and thanks for tuning in. I want to give a special shout out to everybody here at OC Talk Radio, everybody who makes the show happen on a weekly basis. If it's Tuesday, we're talking real estate. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for tuning in.
There you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.